Welcome back to The Explainer. Look, if you've been waking up recently feeling, a little like you're just going through the motions, like you're completely trapped in this endless loop of the exact same routines, the same daily expectations, and getting the exact same outcomes over and over, I want you to know something absolutely crucial right off the bat. You are not experiencing some kind of personal failure. Seriously, you are actually caught in a highly evolved, deeply ingrained neurological trap. And today, we're going to completely dismantle that trap. We're going to take a hard look at the hidden cost of comfort, because by the time we finish this explainer, you are going to walk away with exact, science-backed tools to permanently break your cycle of stagnation. So, let's get into it. I want to start by having you let this one question really sink in for a second. What if safety is actually dangerous? What if the very thing that feels so incredibly warm, so predictable, and so perfectly safe to you today is actually silently destroying your future? Think about it. We spend practically our entire adult lives trying to build this impenetrable bubble of security. We want the stable job, we want the highly predictable weekend routine, and we go out of our way to avoid conflict at literally all costs. But modern psychology and research are pointing us toward a pretty terrifying reality. The longer you stay inside that comfortable little bubble, the more it actually shrinks.
To really wrap our heads around this, we have to face a hard truth. Comfort is not your friend. I know we treat comfort like it's the ultimate finish line of adulthood, like making it to the couch means we've won. But it's actually a seductive lie. It wraps around you like this heavy, cozy blanket, constantly whispering that you're protected from all the harshness and chaos of the real world. But here's the catch. While you're resting, comfort is actively stealing your potential, your personal growth, and ultimately, your life. I want you to picture comfort as a cage. Sure, it feels incredibly safe in there, but your life just gets smaller and smaller the longer you refuse to leave it. And you know what the most tragic part of this whole thing is? The cage isn't even locked. We literally just sit there for so long that we completely forget we have the power to just push the door open and walk right out.
Now, the primal neuroscience behind why we actually do this to ourselves is absolutely fascinating. You have to remember, your brain did not evolve to make you happy. It didn't evolve to make you fulfilled or self-actualized or to help you start a podcast. It evolved to keep you alive, period. That's its only job. So to your primal brain, uncertainty equals danger. Your brain's fear center, the amygdala, treats a brand new challenge, something totally normal like speaking up in a staff meeting or launching a little side business, with the exact same blaring alarm bells that it used to reserve for a literal tiger hiding in the bushes. On the flip side of that, familiarity equals safety, and your brain loves safety, even if that familiarity is a totally miserable job or a completely toxic habit. But here is the biological catch that ruins the whole setup. Your dopamine, which is the neurochemical entirely responsible for your drive, your motivation, and your satisfaction, completely flatlines when your routines become too predictable. So yeah, you survive, but biologically speaking, your brain completely stops giving you the chemical reward of feeling truly alive.
And that brings us to this fascinating concept that psychologists call the comfort zone paradox. It basically states that what feels incredibly safe to you today will almost certainly become your single biggest regret tomorrow. The data backing this up is pretty striking. Psychological studies consistently show that people who live in a state of what they call moderate discomfort, meaning they are actively out there learning new things, struggling just a little bit, and pushing themselves to grow, those are the people who report the highest levels of long-term life satisfaction. Meanwhile, the people who successfully eliminate all discomfort from their lives, they don't achieve some state of Zen bliss, not at all. Instead, excessive comfort leads directly to chronic boredom, deep-seated anxiety, and even depression. You see, you were biologically designed to climb the mountain, not to just sit safely in the lodge drinking hot cocoa for 80 years.
Let's look at the long-term data on how this actually plays out over the course of an entire lifetime, because this is where it gets real. There's this famous research by psychologists Gilovich and Menvek, and they've found that when you ask people at the very end of their lives what they regret the most, a staggering 80% of those regrets are about inaction. Let that number sink in. 80%! They don't regret the business idea that totally failed, or the super awkward first date, or the time they spoke up and completely made a fool of themselves. No, they regret the things they never even tried, simply because they were too comfortable or too scared to pop their familiar little bubble. Basically, 80% of all human regret is simply the ghost of the comfort zone.
Digging a bit deeper, there are 3 hidden sequential costs to staying comfortable. First off, your brain literally gets weaker. I'm not kidding. Neuroplasticity, which is your brain's amazing ability to adapt, rewire itself, and form new connections, actually starts to decline when you stop throwing challenges at it. It is entirely a use it or lose it situation. Second, discomfort actually becomes scarier
the more you avoid it. Every single time you dodge something hard, you are actively teaching your brain that the thing was, in fact, truly dangerous. You are reinforcing your own fear loop. And third, as we just saw, regret eventually far outweighs that initial fear. By avoiding just a tiny little bit of anxiety today, you are essentially pre-ordering a massive, overwhelming dose of regret for your future self. So let's ground all this science in some everyday realities, because we see this play out everywhere. For instance, have you ever heard of retirement depression? So many people work their entire lives grinding away to finally relax, but the second the structure and the daily low-level challenges of work completely disappear, they just spiral. Then there's a concept known as good job misery. You might know this as the golden handcuffs. You stay in an entirely unfulfilling role just because the pay is decent and the benefits are pretty good, but you're completely limiting your horizons and slowly dying inside. And clinically speaking, over 30 years of research shows that experiential avoidance, which is just a fancy term for dodging uncomfortable feelings or awkward situations, is actually one of the strongest predictors of long-term anxiety and depression. Think about that irony. Trying to constantly avoid stress is literally the exact thing that makes you chronically stressed.
This deeply wired biological trap fuels all these common lies we tell ourselves to justify just staying put. First off, we constantly confuse comfort with safety. Comfort feels like a nice warm hug, sure, but it's really a hidden trap that's slowly shrinking your world. Another massive mistake we make, perfectionism. Let me be absolutely clear about this. Perfectionism is literally just procrastination wearing a very nice suit. That's all it is. It's a convenient excuse to not release your work into the real world where it might actually be judged. And of course, we can't forget the classic, "I'm just too busy." Claiming you are too busy to learn a new skill or get to the gym or improve your life is so often just an excuse that has incredibly good PR. It sounds super productive to other people, but internally it's really just avoidance.
All right, Section 2, the growth zone pivot, breaking the cage.
Okay, so we've clearly identified the cage, we understand the primal brain wiring that built it, and we can clearly see the massive lifelong cost of staying inside. Now, it is time to shift gears from the problem into the solution. And honestly, the best part about this is that you do not need to burn your entire life down to fix it. You don't need to quit your job and move to a cabin in the woods. You just need a completely new framework for how you interact with daily discomfort. Enter what we call the 5% rule. This is exactly how you bypass your brain's primal fear center entirely. Because look, if you try to change 100% of your life overnight, your amygdala will absolutely panic and shut you down. But 5%? Your brain can totally handle 5%. Step 1, you just pick a tiny challenge. Step 2, do something that is just 5% uncomfortable every single day. Step 3, you build self-efficacy through those small, stacking wins. Take this woman, Emma, for example. She was terrified of taking on any kind of leadership role. She didn't suddenly volunteer to be the CEO of her company. No, she just started leading one single 5-minute morning huddle a week. It was incredibly low stakes, just 5% uncomfortable. But those tiny, small wins compounded, her fear center finally relaxed, and within a year, she actually got the major promotion she had been actively avoiding for a decade.
So how do we actually apply this right now? Well, your comfort zone is completely unique to you. For example, if you're a hardcore introvert, your 5% challenge might literally just be making 30 seconds of small talk with the barista when you get your coffee. If you're an extreme extrovert who is always on the go, your challenge might actually be forcing yourself to sit in completely quiet solitude for 30 minutes with absolutely no phone. Are you a creature of habit? Literally just take a different route to work tomorrow, just to mess with your brain's autopilot. Consider the story of Jake. Jake had this crippling social anxiety, and he completely avoided dating for years. He didn't magically fix it by going on a high-pressure blind date. He started by simply complimenting one stranger's shoes every single day. That was the whole task. Totally low-risk social interactions. But doing that built his baseline confidence up so much that today he actually actively enjoys dating. The micro-challenge is the master key to all of this.
Now, the really crucial point here is knowing what to do in that exact moment when you're about to take that 5% step and your heart inevitably starts racing. Because it will. Here is a brilliant biological cheat code for you. Harvard research shows that anxiety and excitement trigger the exact same physiological responses in your human body. You get an elevated heart rate, you get sweaty palms, you get those crazy butterflies in your stomach. Biologically, they are identical. The only difference is the label that your conscious brain decides to slap on the feeling. So, when you feel that sudden rush of fear, I want you to actively reframe it. Say out loud to yourself, "I'm not nervous, I am energized, I'm excited." You cannot easily go from severely anxious to totally calm. That's too far of a jump. But you can easily pivot from anxious to excited because your biology is already right there waiting for you. To actually make this lifestyle stick, you have to systematize it. I highly recommend setting up what we call a growth calendar. You need to schedule your discomfort, just like you would schedule a dentist appointment. Maybe Monday is the day you finally sit down and have that difficult conversation you've been putting off. Wednesday, you spend just 20 minutes being terrible at a brand new skill. Friday, you force yourself to go to a networking event for an hour. And here is the absolute ultimate dopamine hack for this. You must reward the courage, not just the result. If you ask for a raise on Monday and your boss flat out says no, guess what? You still win. You celebrate the fact that you stepped out of your comfort zone to ask. By celebrating the sheer effort, you are literally rewiring your brain's reward system to actually crave the challenge instead of fearing it. The great mythologist Joseph Campbell had this incredible quote. He said, "The cave you fear to enter holds the treasure you seek." And look, this isn't just about getting a slightly better promotion at work or feeling a bit more confident at a party. This is about the universal human journey. Everything you genuinely want in this life, the deep, meaningful relationships, the incredibly fulfilling career, the unshakable sense of self-respect, it is all hiding inside that dark, uncomfortable cave of things that you are currently actively avoiding. The psychological struggles that you face every single day, those are the exact dragons you need to slay to actually become the hero of your own life story.
And hey, if you're sitting there right now thinking you just don't have what it takes to enter that cave, I want you to burn this number into your mind, 40%. This concept comes from the legendary Navy SEAL and ultra-endurance athlete David Goggins. He calls it the 40% rule. When your brain is screaming at you that you are completely done, that you are totally exhausted, that you absolutely cannot take one more step or handle a single ounce more of discomfort, you are actually only at 40% of your true capability. I'm serious. Your brain is just throwing up a giant fake barrier to protect its precious, cozy little comfort zone. You literally have 60% more in the tank, always. Listen to this absolute warning from Goggins, and I want you to let these words really hit you hard. You are in danger of living a life so comfortable and soft that you will die without ever realizing your true potential. Man, denial is the absolute ultimate comfort zone. Every single time you choose the easy path, every time you take the familiar route, every time you look for the quiet, non-confrontational exit, you are sacrificing the person you could ultimately become. Discomfort is not some kind of punishment you have to endure. It is quite literally the absolute best training ground for greatness that exists.
So here is where the rubber finally meets the road. I'm looking right at you. What is one comfort zone you are breaking this week? And I mean this week, not next month, not after the holidays, not when you magically feel ready, because you're never going to feel perfectly ready. What is one tiny 5% uncomfortable thing you are going to commit to doing today? Because your absolute unstoppable future self is standing right there, just on the other side of that unlocked cage door, waiting for you to finally push it open and walk through. Take that step. Embrace the friction. Thank you so much for diving into this with me on The Explainer today, and I'll see you next time when we break down our next topic. Keep growing, everybody.